The president of the former Soviet Republic of Georgia has appealed to the West to help him defeat opposition forces that he's described as terrorists. Rebels have again been shelling the Georgian parliament buildings in Tbilisi this morning in an attempt to drive out the president who took refuge there on Sunday. Georgia is the only republic not to have joined the new Commonwealth.
Gunfire has been echoing around the heart of Tbilisi for a third day as the rebel forces continue their attempt to remove President Zviad Gamsakhodia from office. The opposition have given him until daybreak tomorrow to resign, but inside his headquarters, the Georgian leader, denounced by his opponents as a dictator, remains under heavy guard in the basement and shows no sign of giving in.
This is a coup against the government of Georgia and its legitimately elected authorities, carried out by destructive forces who call themselves Democrats. In fact, they want to bring about destabilization and anarchy and a civil war in Georgia in order to seize power one way or another.
President Gamsakhodia claims he still has the support of his people and that 10,000 armed men in the Georgian capital are ready to defend him. But the upper hand appears to belong to the rebels. They're reported to be in control of roads into Tbilisi, blocking the path of troops loyal to the president. For the time being, though, neither side has enough force to bring this battle for Georgia to an end.
The Prime Minister has sent warm good wishes to Boris Yeltsin and invited him to visit Britain. In a letter to the Russian President, John Major says, "May I renew my invitation to you to pay an early visit to the United Kingdom as the guest of Her Majesty's government." Mr. Major also said he looks forward to working with Russia when she takes over the Soviet Union's seat on the UN Security Council. The Northern Ireland Secretary Peter Brook has called on the people of the province to work together to end the evil of terrorism. He was speaking on a visit to troops in West Belfast. The leader of the Democratic Unionists, the Reverend Ian Paisley, has described the IRA's Christmas suspension of violence as another lie.
It's unusual for a Secretary of State to visit West Belfast, if not actually in public, then at least in front of the cameras. Peter Brook met soldiers of the Prince of Wales' own regiment at their base, Fort White Rock, as they were about to go out on patrol. Whether the IRA suspends its activities or not, the work of the security forces goes on. Mr. Brook also visited the military wing of the Musgrave Park Hospital, which was devastated by an IRA bomb last month, an attack in which 2 soldiers died. Today, the Secretary of State chatted with injured soldiers. This man was shot and wounded in the leg in South Armagh. The last visit was to a Belfast city centre police station, where Mr. Brook read a statement, effectively his Christmas message. On the IRA's suspension of its activities, he repeated his call for it to become a permanent one. He said the men of violence were simply evil, and his hope for the new year was that the people of Northern Ireland would come together to ensure an end to violence.
The real developments in the economic and social fields and the political dialogue, which has been such a heartening feature of the past year, will be carried forward in 1992 and allied with a determined and firm response to terrorism, I know will help secure a peaceful and prosperous Christmas. A very happy New Year to everybody.
Mr. Brook also said recent signs of his talks process with the Northern Ireland parties resuming were encouraging, but that's going to require a bigger political cuddle than this.
Kevin Maxwell has resigned as chairman and publisher of the New York Daily News, which is privately owned by the Maxwell family. He said he had to cooperate with the British investigations into the Maxwell public companies and the pension funds, and so could not be 100% available in New York.
Within days of his father's death, Kevin Maxwell assumed control of the Daily News with the full backing of its staff. But he always said he'd leave if he became a liability, and with all that's happened since, he's found it increasingly difficult to run the paper, especially as he had to apply to the courts in London for his passport every time he wanted to fly to New York. Now both he and his brother Ian, who was on the board, have decided to resign. The Daily News filed for bankruptcy protection earlier this month and is struggling to find new investors. Its editor will take over as chairman and publisher. On the other side of New York, a bankruptcy court has made good progress towards resolving a transatlantic wrangle over the future of Maxwell Communication Corporation, which has sought bankruptcy protection in both Britain and the United States. Lawyers have been arguing over whether the British-appointed administrator should take over the firm's management or whether it should be restructured with the existing management, as favoured under American law. The court has postponed a final decision until January the 3rd. Meanwhile, staff at the Mirror Group's Scottish newspapers say they're confident that their buyout plan will work. They're hoping to take control of the Daily Record and the Sunday Mail with the support of a merchant bank.
Talks between the Serbian-dominated Yugoslav army and Croatian officials have been cancelled, and the fighting has continued. In Croatia, missile attacks on Osijek by the Serbian-led federal army mean that civilians have been told to stay in shelters and cellars. They'll probably spend Christmas there.
A seasonal expression of defiance in Osijek. But there's no let-up in the war being fought on 3 sides of the city. Heavy overnight shelling filled the shelter beneath the main square. For some families, though, this is their home for Christmas regardless. Their own houses are rubble. It's an unnatural, a Spartan existence, relieved a little by food parcels shipped to Osijek by Red Cross convoy. But the Gradic family won't risk the city streets much, even over Christmas. Staying underground, she says, is the best way of staying alive. These sisters are among the few children who've remained in Osijek. Most have been evacuated to safer Croatian towns or abroad to Austria. While they're in the shelter all day, they're frightened for their parents who can't be. There was a spirited attempt at good cheer on the Croat front line, where further missile and artillery attacks from the Federal Army today have confirmed there'll be no Christmas truce. Lunch wasn't much more appetizing than usual. The trenches in this conflict have the feel of the First World War at Christmas. And among the troops on both sides, there's a similar grim gallows humour. Mike Donkin, BBC News, Croatia.
In northern Iraq, the Kurds are continuing to endure the hardship caused by Baghdad's blockade of Kurdish-controlled areas. Saddam Hussein is trying to force the Kurds to accept his terms for autonomy. From northern Iraq, Jonathan Rugman reports.
The high street in this Kurdish-controlled town looks normal enough. The shops in Duhok are full, but 2 months of Baghdad's economic blockade and the UN's own sanctions mean that prices in Kurdistan are sky high. Flour is 40 times the price it was in the spring. Many families just can't afford to eat meat. With government salaries not being paid either, counterfeit money is flooding the market. This restaurant owner is taking no chances. There's a black market for petrol. Children sell it by the jerry can, but if you are patient, you can queue for days at the petrol stations. The line is so static that many drivers sleep in their cars overnight. The Kurds may not have enough fuel, but Turkish lorry drivers ignore UN sanctions and take out as much as they can carry. At the Turkish border, 500 lorries a day are waiting to leave. The drivers stand to make thousands of dollars on each load, but they're also bringing into Iraq vital supplies of food for the Kurds and Iraq as a whole.
Here in Erbil, the petrol queues continue to lengthen, and there's no sign of the economic embargo ending. If it continues despite UN objections, and if food coming from Turkey and Iran is not enough, then the Kurds may decide that the time has come to fight again. Jonathan Rugman, BBC News, Erbil.
A Devon couple have become the first in Britain to benefit from a new treatment for male infertility. Richard and Maria Kerr are celebrating the news that she is now pregnant after specialists at Nottingham University used a new test tube baby technique. Our science correspondent James Wilkinson reports.
Richard and Maria Kerr have 2 adopted children, both with Down syndrome. But for the last 7 years, they've been trying to have a baby of their own. 5 years ago, they started test tube baby treatment without success. Until, that is, they went to the University Hospital in Nottingham. There, a new technique was used to overcome male infertility, the biggest single cause of infertility. The technique involves injecting a sperm into an egg using a needle 7 times thinner than a human hair. The needle is so small that it can hold 1 sperm at a time. Normally, sperm penetrate the tough outer shell of the egg by themselves, but sometimes, even though the sperm is in other ways healthy, it can't get through without help. With this new technique, the needle pushes its way in just beneath the shell, and the sperm is deposited there. After fertilization, the egg is replaced in the womb.
It's been so many years that we've wanted this. It's just unbelievable. Just having seen the embryos and knowing that there is a possibility for us to have a child, I mean, we would have done it again. I mean.
Mrs. Kerr's pregnancy is at an early stage, but it will boost the confidence of doctors in the technique, and it will encourage hundreds of other childless couples to hope that a similar technique might one day help them.
The main news again. It looks as if President Gorbachev will resign during a television address tomorrow evening. Our next scheduled news is at 6 o'clock.
Good afternoon. We've gone very Christmassy here at the BBC, but I'm afraid there's very little snow on offer for Christmas Day, 1 or 2 flakes over the highlands of Scotland, but many people in England and Wales will waken up to a fairly sharp frost. We have high pressure over the British Isles now, so it's mostly dry, just 1 or 2 showers around, but the system will spread cloud and rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and it'll bring a return to gale force winds. So let's take a look at the winds first of all. Here's the high pressure, still a brisk northwesterly wind, so it's still feeling on the cold side, and then the winds pick up in the west and eventually getting up to gale or even severe gale in some exposed parts of northern and western Scotland. Now still 1 or 2 showers around on the rainfall radar, something down through the Midlands, up here northeastern Scotland, and when our new radar comes on stream, we'll see the showers that we've got up here to the northwest. So 1 or 2 light showers around, mainly around the coast, 1 or 2 through the Midlands, but most places bright and fairly sunny. And then through the day we'll lose the showers over many parts of the country, see more in the way of cloud, we'll lose the sunshine in Scotland, just 1 or 2 wintry showers still over Shetland. Temperatures at best in the southwest around about 9, for the north we go a little bit cooler, 4 in the extreme north of Scotland, still that brisk northwesterly wind. But tonight with clear skies, it's a widespread frost for much of England and Wales, temperatures as low as -4, some freezing fog patches, and after a frost in Scotland and Northern Ireland we'll see thicker cloud coming across, temperatures picking up, some rain, some heavier bursts, and the winds also getting up to gale force. So tomorrow, then Christmas Day, a frosty start, 1 or 2 fog patches, but for much of England and Wales, dry, bright and quite sunny, temperatures up again around about 8. But for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a good deal of cloud, though it will turn out to be rather mild, temperatures into double figures, but strong to gale force winds, and some of that rain beginning to edge southwards later on Christmas Day and into Boxing Day, brighter weather returning to the north with 1 or 2 showers, and in the southwest I think it'll still be basically fairly dry and bright. From all the weather team, a very happy Christmas.
Enjoy the magic of Christmas Eve on BBC One. At 6:30, Jim Davidson hosts a big break pantomime special. Seasonal warmth and hot tempers in Albert Square at 7.
Now listen, Pat. Me and you, Nick, will have a little conversation.
Table number 3.
At 7:30, the first of a 2-part Christmas Only Fools and Horses.
Be careful, Rodney. You drop him and I'll drop you. Dalton? Well, he dropped a whole Royal Dalton dinner service once. Nearly ruined it. Shut up.
The secret of a successful injection is surprise. Hold out your arm.
Hello Hello provides pointed humour.
At 8:20.
While at 9:30, a deadly political game allows no way out.
I have to talk to you, but I can't leave here now.
Drama, comedy and intrigue for Christmas Eve on BBC One.
The famous Esplanade of Edinburgh Castle provides the setting on BBC Two in 5 minutes for highlights of this year's Edinburgh Military Tattoo. Here on One, in 25 minutes, Christmas comes to the Alaskan town of Willow Creek in our film, starring those former Dukes of Hazzard, John Schneider and Tim Wopat. First, let's catch up with the neighbours.
So, how's your day?